Good afternoon everyone, hope you're all well. In this video what I'm going to touch on is niches that I'm going to touch on 5 niches that are super hot at the moment, and they will be in 2021. So if you're looking for niches that are not competitive, highly profitable, these are going to be the ones for you. Now the reason being two things. One, they're not saturated at all, so there is a demand on the employer side, so they find it hard to recruit, so they need agencies. However, there's not a lot of agencies operating in this sector. Also, they are evergreen, they're growing sectors as well. And this is hours of research that I've put in to find these. So it might not be the most professional, video you've ever seen in your life. However, there's going to be some golden nuggets in here that you're going to love. So I've got a list. I'm always looking to start agencies or even small ones in various different niches. So what we're going to touch on, first of all, plain and simple, a very boring one. If you want a massive sector but a niche, you've got to find a low skilled position. So the first one is not going to be that exciting and I won't spend too much time on it. It's going to be low skilled people. And in terms of that, it's going to be people that don't have qualifications. In terms of cleaners, high in demand now. In fact, I've got inbound calls. I've got people saying to me, I need cleaners in my sectors, and it applies to pretty much every sector. I don't know if it's going to die out in, the COVID scenario is going to end, but cleaners is a very hot niche. Also, laborers. Now, cleaners, obviously due to COVID, laborers, this is still part one, by the way. Laborers, construction is booming. However, you want sectors that you can fill the positions easy. You don't want to go after big construction managers. They're hard to fill, they're very expensive for employers, they're not looking for anything like that. So laborers are always in demand. Every single building site in the country might not need a construction manager at the moment, but they're going to need laborers. Brexit is affecting the laborer market. Typically it's Eastern Europeans, it's people from Europe come over, work, go back home after a few years. So that's something to consider. Brexit is going to have a knock-on effect, especially in cleaners. Also, just adding to that, warehouse operatives. I think I read a statistic, it's like 64% are from Eastern Europe as well. The numbers are dwindling, and you can see warehouse operatives were actually a minimum wage position. Now they're going up to about £12, £13 an hour, which is above the national living wage. So an administrator or a secretary will be getting less than someone working in a warehouse. Delivery drivers we can throw in there. So that's part one. If you want to touch on something where you're going to have global reach, national reach, you can sort of get one contract and they're going to give you like loads of jobs. You can either do this temporary or perm. I would obviously suggest perm, but yeah, that's pretty much, part one. Now to the exciting part two. This is probably the sector that's probably the best if you can get a foothold now. You read all those stories about, someone getting into tech at the right time. This is probably, in terms of recruitment, the best time to get in this sector. So we're looking at renewable energy, and it's massive. So you can touch on 2 different niches within renewable energy. So there's a lot of automation going on, and there's a lot in the sector where they need people for, I don't know, climate change officers. I'm seeing jobs like that. Energy efficient. Soon companies are going to start to implement or employ people specifically just to sort of put their carbon emissions down. It's a massive selling point. I mean, I saw on Google, I went onto Google's website and they were like, look, we're going to be carbon neutral by the end of 2020, 2030 or something like that. So, or carbon zero or whatever. Companies are pushing towards that. Also, in every single country, they're getting massive funding from the IMF. Governments are getting massive funding. They're pumping a lot into green energy. So if you're looking at a sector, green energy is going to be, it's going to be dynamite in 2021. So make sure you're in that sector, touch on it. I mean, you can go recruit people on the construction part for wind farms. You can go recruit engineers. You can recruit admin staff. You can, project managers. It's so vast, but it's actually a sector that, hold on a minute, it's just popped up. Now we need all the staff. So we need to be there at that time. So if you are looking into that, you're interested in it, you show a passion for it, save the world and all that, go for it. It's a it's a hot sector. And at some point I will jump into it as well. So if you're looking at number 3, I'm giving away my sort of secret sauce. It's no secret, but languages. And that's going to shock a lot of people because they're thinking, where did that come from? I made, a quarter of £1 million. I built £250,000 in the language sector before, and it is a sector that's phenomenal to do. So what do I mean by languages? I need let's say a French speaker, a French salesman, let's say a French speaking salesman. The reason is, if I employ them and I'm in the UK, they can sell to France. I think there's 40 or 50 French speaking countries. So if you employ one person, excuse me, they can sell to 50 countries on a native level. People are less likely to buy from people. I mean, if I call up and speak English to French people, they don't like it. But if you hear languages, now the premise of language recruitment is you must speak 2 or more languages. Then you can recruit for anything. I made a killing in customer service, believe it or not. So French speaking customer service, German speaking, Norwegian, any language you can think of, Japanese. You work with some massive companies as well, because it's typically the big companies that are global, international. They work well. I mean, I won't name drop, but companies like Google, Microsoft, Getty Images, they're the ones that you'll end up recruiting for in that sector. So it's a beautiful sector. You meet a lot of people. I just love the culture of it, talking to people from different countries. I mean, I can say hello in about 30 different languages now. So it is really, really a good sector. However, COVID has hit it quite badly. If you yourself speak more than 2 languages, or 2 or more languages, definitely this is a sector for you. Especially if you can touch into, the same way I said that French salesperson can build relationships in, let's say you speak German, you can go to German as well. You can speak to people in Germany. Germany is 4 or 5 countries that are, I think it's 6, that is their national official language as well. So you learn a lot culturally. You can do a lot of work in Asia, America, wherever. So yeah, stick to that. Also, with Brexit happening, it's going to have a massive good effect on that sector, believe it or not. So there is a lot of research gone into this, and I've operated in the sector as well. I've had a very small niche agency in that as well. But COVID has taken an effect. Not many people are hiring or doing international business. Now, number 4, this one is also, I even heard Ty Lopez talk about this. No matter what you think of him, he's a businessman. E-commerce is another one. Now, e-commerce touches in, it goes without saying, I'm not even going to have to explain why e-commerce is the sector to be in. However, there was a massive jump. We've sort of transformed into e-commerce within 10 years. That isn't enough time to someone start school, notice that, hey, look, build a curriculum around it, get people trained and staffed up. There's no qualification in e-commerce. There isn't really too much to do or study. You just have to know how to do it. So, e-commerce assistant, someone sits on a computer, manages their sort of stats, checks everything's running smoothly. It touches into logistics as well. So if people are building in software, AI, I mean, you can sort of touch on developers in this sector as well, possibly, but you need to position yourself as an e-commerce specialist. So e-commerce managers, I mean, social media marketers touch into this subject. So companies that have, let's say, I've worked with a number of companies on the e-commerce side. I didn't even know it. I didn't even recognize it. But I was working with jewelry brands. So people that sold watches and jewelry online, people that sold toys, coloring books, weird stuff you've never even thought of. They all need an e-commerce manager to say, hey, look, this is how we set everything up. This is how we increase conversions. This is our email marketing campaign behind it. It's an all-in-one sort of job. So you need to deal with the logistics sides, make sure the stocks are all there, make sure the product page looks good. It's everything to do with, e-commerce. So it's a beautiful sector. I mean, just go into Indeed, type in e-commerce, and you'll see the number of sort of diverse positions. Again, either position yourself as an e-commerce guy, recruitment agency, or specialize even deeper, because it is a growing market and it is somewhere where you can obviously make good money as well. So I would recommend that sector probably alongside renewables. It's a sector that's going to grow and it's always going to be there. So this brings me to number 5 as well. So a lot of people came to me and said, look, I want to recruit for customer service managers, customer success managers, relationship managers. That is probably a really, really good sector. I made good money in it. I have recruited a number of those sort of sectors. So I don't want to say the sort of general customer service positions, because they're very easy to fill. Imagine you've got, let's say, an insurance company, they've got a massive call center, and you need a customer service person or sometimes, you know, at a senior level. So I'll be looking at least £40,000 plus within that. So you want to look at director of customer service, you want to look at that, as well as customer service managers, relationship managers, senior customer service managers. I mean, I've recruited for a customer service manager at 65 grand before, and that was in London, and you'll be making very good money in that sector. It is quite easy to fill as well on our side, especially if the money's right, the company looks good. It's typically nice, beautiful companies you want to recruit for, that you're proud to say you're recruiting for. I mean, that's probably the weakest on the list. But if you are looking at that position where we don't need too much skill, we know what a customer service does. It's more about selling the role and connecting the employer with you know, the employer with the candidate, or the worker. So just to touch on, you know, the number 2 takeaways from this will be renewable energies and also e-commerce. There's 2 bonus ones I wanted to throw in there, which is farming. I haven't done too much research, but it seems like a really good. So farming and agriculture, there's a lot of AI, a lot of technology being built in. So I want to try and find a sector in that as well. Property, I haven't had much time to research in, but property lets development, is there a niche in that I can find? So there's 2 bonuses on there. So hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think, sort of recruitment sectors for 2021. Take care.